Good morning. What are some of your fears? What are the things that you've borrowed from other people that weren't yours originally? What are the things that you've been told that were impossible at one point, and you've borrowed those? You've taken on the fears of others. This happens all the time in our culture. I remember being told. I remember I was in I don't know, grade 4 or 5. I remember looking at an Olympic Games and going, I'm going to run in the Sydney 2020 Olympics. I remember thinking that at the time, and I told my dad. And he said, Mark, I got to tell you, like, you're pretty fast now, but when you get into junior high school or middle school, you won't be the fast there, because there are a lot of schools coming into that junior high school, a lot of elementary schools. And then even if you're the fastest there, you won't be fastest in high school, because all the junior highs or middle schools go into the high schools, the senior high schools. And then even if you're the fastest there, you go into university or college, and all the high schools go into there, and so it always gets more difficult. Even in university, then you got to compete in the country, and then even if you're the fastest in the country, to make it into the limit, that's very difficult. And he was trying to help me. I'm not blaming anyone here. My dad was trying to help me there. He was trying to take this child's dreams and go, I don't want you to break your heart here. The fact is that I was really fast all throughout high school. I won medals in larger groups of people, provincial medals, and was I the fastest on the planet? Would I have made it to the Olympics when I was about 22? I doubt it. Okay. Having said that, I borrowed the fears of my dad. My dad didn't want to break my heart because his heart had been broken. And so I borrowed those fears, and I lived with that for a long time. This happens in other ways, but before I get to other ways, I want to share that one day I remember sitting in a seminar, and I was learning and growing, and people were challenging us on what is holding you back. And I remember thinking, wait a second, I'm afraid to be the best. I'm afraid that eventually I'll fail if I keep competing, if I keep working hard, if I keep moving up. And I remember thinking, I'm afraid of being the best on some level. And that comes from these weird fears that I've borrowed from other people. Now, at that moment, I actually realized, this is a big epiphany moment for me. I realized, wait a second, I can be the expert at something. I can be a master at something. And when you're a master at something, that's when you get paid the most. That's when you're the most, I don't know what you are excited about, whether it's people being excited about you and asking you questions, or whether it's more money, or whether it's just a sense of satisfaction, whatever that is. But for me, I was going, wait a second, I can have these things, but I've got to stop pulling back. When I was going to be really good at something, often I pulled back. That happened in sports. That happened that happened with money and finances and jobs in different ways. And I would learn musical instruments. I would get really good at something, and I'd pull back. And once I realized that, I actually was able to start to take off the limits. And I've been consistently getting better since then. I became one of the best coaches actually at that seminar. I was one of these coaches out of many, and I became one of the best coaches in the organization, and then I left and became better at other things. What I want to challenge you to do is you may have borrowed fears. I don't want you to borrow those fears and hold on to them to your own detriment. I'll give you some examples of things that we're told are impossible, because this happens all the time. We're educated constantly by mutual funds and banks that the good returns are 4, 5, 6% returns. Those are awful returns. Any great investor that I talk to, I'm not talking about the best in the world, I'm talking about, I shouldn't say great, any good investor, anyone that just knows what they're doing, stocks, real estate, doesn't matter what they're in, 10%, 15% is the lowest they'd ever think of making in returns, long term, year on year. That's low. So be careful about what you've believed is impossible, what you've been told by others, and borrowed other people's fears, and borrowed other people's marketing, whatever that is. And what I want to challenge you to do this morning, what I want to ask you to do this morning, is ask yourself, what are some things that I believe are impossible for me right now? And then once you've identified those, you can ask yourself, it's not crazy important that you know where this comes from, but you can ask yourself, hey, where did this come from? Did it come from my past? Who did I hear this from? Whose fears did I borrow? But the most important thing that you can do is make a decision. Today, a decision is a promise that you make to yourself that you keep. I'm going to repeat that. A decision is a promise that you make to yourself that you keep. Make a decision today. You're not going to let fears, other people's fears, and other people's thoughts and beliefs stop you from getting what you want. Whether it's in relationships, in life, in finances, in business, whatever that is. Allow yourself to grow. Allow yourself to not be held back anymore by other people's junk. Because that's all it is. It's other people's junk. And you don't have to live by that junk. Make the decision today. Acknowledge what things are, what is it that's holding you back, the impossibilities, the fears that are holding you back, and then make a decision. I'm going to do something different, and then take an action today. Take some little step today, right away. The quicker you take action, the quicker you start to get over those fears, and the quicker you start to push through your limits. And we don't know. We don't know. It is impossible to say. I'm saying impossible now, right? It is impossible to say what our limits are. Humans don't know what our limits are. You don't know what your limits are. Don't allow other people's fears, borrowed by yourself, to stop you from reaching them. Enjoy your day.